Hello, athletes.
Hey guys.
We are going to give a recap from Clash Daytona. It was our end of the season race. We decided to sign up for this event back in September when the weather was nice and we were on a high from me finishing the extreme try in Italy and Corel going sub 9 at Chattanooga Ironman. And then the weather got colder and we questioned if this was still a good decision. We spiced up the training a little bit with getting two new bikes or me getting a new bike and doing some mountain biking and doing a trail run race. So that helped us kind of keep the excitement and prevent some burnout with doing a race in December, which I don't think we've ever done a triathlon that late before. And this was our 14th race this season. Um, but it was a really great experience, and we wanted to share a little bit about that. So, as far as the race, I was the day before the race was pretty chill, and we both have our normal routine that we go through. I can share my normal routine. What I eat is the same before any long distance race. I have two waffles with peanut butter and syrup before I work out. I'll do 45 plus minutes on the bike with a few little pickups. In this race, because uh, the race is on a highway and we did ride on the highway for our warm up on Friday, we wanted to keep to some safer, cleaner roads. So we just rode around a neighborhood, up and down different streets.
We
And then,
actually found one good street. It was like a half a mile
yeah,
stretch from one stop sign to another stop sign,
yeah,
no cars. So we were just kind of doing the like openers
yeah,
there. So
yeah,
it was
that
it
was
was
really
pretty
good.
chill.
And then just a short run off the bike, like 10 minutes or so. Then afterwards, I have eggs with a bagel and some kind of toppings on the bagel. And then for lunch, I have pasta with marinara sauce. For an afternoon snack, I have two brown sugar Pop Tarts and a yogurt. And then for dinner, I have no chicken noodle from Amy's soup, and I add a half bag of basmati or jasmine rice to that. So that's my typical routine, and it works for me, but it also keeps me on a schedule and it helps me carb up easily. And really, the day was chill, like almost to the point where we were just so bored, couldn't wait to go to sleep. And I think that's important. It's important to not expend too much energy because then you're just kind of wound up and your body is not really storing that energy that should be used for the race. So just so bored and just building this energy up, couldn't wait to sleep, and also just very antsy because I'm ready to race. So we get to bed, lay in bed around 7 or so, and try to go to bed by 8:30, and tossed and turned a little bit, but at least our bodies are rested on race day morning.
And uh, I don't have a routine, so I just kind of eat whatever I'm in the mood from several choices that I usually do, but it's not truly a routine. So this time, like the main meal was rotisserie chicken and mashed potatoes. And throughout the day, I was just kind of like a snacking on some sweets, some Czech sweets that our athlete Honza brought for me. So lots of carbs getting into the system, and just kind of like yeah, doing the same pre-race warm up as Marnie did, and just kind of waiting for the night to go to sleep and go to the race.
Yep. So on race day morning, we woke up about 4:15. Planned to leave the house about 5:20. So it gave us about an hour to get our systems going, get our pre-race meals in. I have a bagel or two Belgian waffles. This time I had a bagel with some peanut butter and some syrup and banana. Pretty easy to get down. Felt pretty relaxed. Had good energy in the house with some other athletes there. So overall, felt really positive. And I kept telling myself that in in the scope of all the races that I've done this year, this was actually a very easy race. I was not racing at 4 o'clock in the morning in the cold, dark water. I was not battling rain or cold conditions. This was everything that I love in a race, and I get to go as hard as I want to go and have some fun. So that really helped me stay calm and look forward to the event, just thinking about those different tough experiences that I put myself through, relatively speaking, this was a very easy race for me to get excited for. So we got to the venue, which is the NASCAR racetrack. And you don't have to be a NASCAR fan to really get excited about where you get to race, to be able to walk around, to be on the track, to be in the inside of that was really a cool experience. And the whole Clash staff and volunteers and all the athletes, it was just so welcoming and positive, and just really took us back to some of those early non-Ironman branded events that we did early in our triathlon career, that just had a lot of diversity, different fitness levels. There was a lot of different events. This was the long course championship. So there was a lot of aquabike athletes, over 250 aquabike athletes. Duathletes, open water swimming. So there's just a wide range of athletes, and that was really cool. Once we got to the venue, we were able to rack our bikes on race day morning, which was something awesome. We both wanted to do. So the bikes were in our own possession. We could pump up the tires, put the bottles on, charge them, make sure everything was good, not having to stress about them being left there overnight, not from a safety standpoint, but just,
you never know what's going to happen
within your control. So once we laid out our transition areas, we had a little less than an hour before the race started at 7. And we both used that time to just kind of get ready at the car. And one thing that was kind of nice about this is everything is in one venue. So you don't have a split transition. You don't have to get bused somewhere. You don't have to stay around the water and be tightly packed in there. There is so much room around. And that was really nice. We could be at the car. We had a large like picnic towel that I laid out, and I did some easy fit, did some good stretches, really worked on my ribs, my arms. I really wanted to make sure my hips were loose. So I spent probably a good 15, 20 minutes really going through some of my favorite easy fit exercises that I really do think contributed to me feeling really good starting with the swim and then into the bike. So that was really good to spend that time and to have that time and that space before the race to really get my body warmed up. Then when we got to the swim start, they did the national anthem and they did fireworks at 7 in the morning, which was really cool. And that just kind of got your blood pumping, and just a really cool vibe. Anything you want to mention about your pre-race warm-up?
Yeah, it was very similar with what you did some exercises and just kind of get ready at the car. And like you said, it was really easy to kind of go from the car to the swim start. Nothing felt like it was out of the way. And it was also pretty easy to slot into the corral where we wanted to go. So they have a fence, but there's several openings with predicted times. Of course, everybody's predicted time was under 28 minutes, so that's kind of where everybody went. And then they started the race, and it was on.
Yeah. So the day before, on Friday, when we did the practice swim, the water was a very cold 62, 63 degrees. It was very chilly, but it was good to warm up in the water and to get a feel of that. But on race day, it was about 67, which is my preferred temperature because I can swim hard. I don't overheat, but it's not too cold. So I love
and very comfortable.
Yeah. So 67, 68 is kind of my go-to temperature with a full wetsuit. So we both lined up kind of, I would say maybe 10, 15 athletes behind the very front. I was hoping to be towards the front, and this worked out just fine. But I did find myself having to swim through a lot of people and passing a lot of people that just seated themselves way faster than they should have been. The course was just an out and back clockwise. 6 buoys out, turn, 6 buoys back. The water was very murky and dark. It was also cloudy in the morning. I had tinted goggles. They were fine for this, but I think I would have preferred a little lighter of a lens, just because of the sighting and having to get around a lot of athletes. I was having to sight a lot, and those clearer lenses would have been a little bit more helpful for me. But overall, it was great, and I was really thankful that I did that mobility before the race. We put water down our wetsuit at the car, and I really adjusted the wetsuit around my arms, my armpits, my chest, just to get it so that it didn't feel like it was sucking or tight in any area, and that really helped. And I swam pretty hard, and I kept thinking to myself, oh my gosh, there's no way I could do this for a full distance. But that kind of reminded me that I was at the right intensity. But I swam pretty hard. It was a little bit choppy on the back half of the swim, but I felt strong the whole way. And just kind of every time it got hard, I just kept telling myself, hey, it's the end of the season. This is a half distance. You can go as hard as you want. The worst that will happen is you just slow down. So I kept kind of playing those little things. Anytime it started to feel uncomfortable, I would just remind myself of these things, that it's okay. You have permission to go this hard.
Yeah, and it was the same thing for me. It's like anytime we race, like we want to go hard, but especially here on the half distance, and I don't want it to sound like silly, but after doing all those long events and long endurance stuff for many hours, the half almost felt short, and and racing should be hard. So like from basically swim, bike, and run, I try to go as hard as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just kind of that's the racing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of athletes who just kind of give the best in the training and then comes to the race and they just kind of want to be safe and conservative. But with the experience that we have, we know that, like you said, the worst thing can happen. You just slow down. So why not take some chances and see the breakthrough? And we actually talked to several of our athletes who also have a lot of experience and they've done so many races. And why not just try to go hard? And we talk specifically about different likes of the triathlon, and like our athlete Sarah Randolph, who she raced Ironman Chattanooga, Ironman Cozumel. 2 weeks later is Challenge Daytona, and she won all three of these events in her age group, and she finally learned what it feels like to really race hard, and it was awesome to see and see the results of that.
Yeah. And that's really one of the main reasons why I'm seeking out these very uncomfortable long distance events. I mean, most of the events that I've done this year have been over 6 to 9 plus hours, up to even 16 hours. So it's all relative, and it just makes these other events much more fun, much more dynamic, and easy in a way. So it isn't until you really step out of your comfort zone that you have a new perspective for these shorter distance races. And I think the half is a really good distance for a lot of athletes. The Ironman is it's an ultra distance event. It requires a lot of training, a lot of decision making, a lot of experience, a lot of time. And the half, it's still a long distance race, but it's just a lot more doable for athletes, that they can suffer for a long period of time, but it's not as significant of a toll on your body with the training and the preparation needed. So, with all that being said, I just, mentally, it just didn't feel overwhelming. I was excited for the opportunity to bring a high intensity to an effort, something that I haven't been able to do in a very long time.
Yeah, and speaking of the high intensity and the racing, it's still really almost like surprising to me to see how many athletes go into these races. And like, I know that there are different levels, and of course, and don't take me wrong, I'm all about like everybody's doing the best they can, and of course there are different levels, but you can kind of tell if the athlete is pushing or not. And when we started a bike, and as you go and passing some riders, right, they just kind of sitting up, they have a gear that it's not suitable for that terrain. So this was very flat and fast course. We knew it from the 2 days before when we pre-ride it. It's like, okay, it's going to be fast. It was the elevation gain for the whole course was like 20 feet. So, pancake flat. And you have athletes riding small chain rings, easy gears, just kind of spinning and just looking around, and just there's no purpose to it. But you're just really wasting the time, and like, why did you sign up for the race and then just kind of do this,
Yeah.
or there are other athletes who like have the spreadsheet down, like, because they calculate it using all kinds of apps and best bike splits, and their coaches and whoever gave them this idea that they need to be doing XYZ. But that's not racing. If you are there to checking off things from your spreadsheet, how can you ever really be satisfied that you really did the best you can, and that you like find out what you are capable of, if you are limited by the spreadsheet? Or sometimes you are just overreaching because the spreadsheet says so, but you clearly can't do it, and then you are blowing up. So I know it comes with experience and just kind of like some courage to be able to race. But I would really challenge you all to, especially for these late season races, just pick the race where you just say, you know what, I'm just going to try and go by feel and try to go hard, race hard, and see what happens. Because really, the worst thing can happen, you will slow down. So what? But at least you know what is supposed to feel and what happens when you push too hard. And that's, again, that's the beauty of racing.
Yeah. You have to take some risks sometimes. So after the swim, I've really worked on my transitions, and I think that just comes from lots more racing experience, from mountain biking or Xterra racing to the extreme tries. I mean, every transition is different, but you can still lose a lot of time and you can gain a lot of time. So my transitions have really improved. I remember there was a time when I was a lot slower than Carell, and Carell has really good quick transition, and I've been able to make my transitions a lot faster.
Now you're faster than me.
Just taking off, watching the IT races, just learning from these athletes and taking off my taking off my wetsuit and pulling my legs off. I'm putting on my helmet and then putting on my socks and shoes, and it's just it's routine and it's very simple. So once I got out on the bike, I had kind of a few goals for myself. One was I wanted to try to go faster than 23 miles per hour. I had done that before around in Chattanooga. My bike fitness has really improved this year. And with the new bike and my setup and just doing some training sessions, I just felt confident that I would be able to push. And I was also willing to take some risks as well and just see what I could do on the bike. I also have a tremendous amount of endurance. So I knew that even if I went too hard, I'd still be able to still run well off the bike. But that was one of my goals. My other goal was, because the bike is so flat and not my style of racing, I knew that I needed to create opportunities that I could sit up and stretch. And so my first opportunity was, as soon as I get on the bike, to not go right down into aero, to give myself a little bit of time to settle into my rhythm on the bike around the track and then get aero. So it wasn't a long time, maybe a minute or two, but I didn't just, as soon as I get on the bike, go into the aero position. You'll even see a video of me that Yannick took, and I was still up in the base bars because I was just trying to get my legs turning over, get into a good feeling on the bike. Then there was a few little risers, very small, on the course, and anytime it went up just a little bit, I would sit up for a few pedal strokes or get out of the saddle, or if any time that I felt like it was just my pedal stroke was starting to get a little bit boxy, I would get out of the saddle for a few pedal strokes. So that was really important to me, just to create some differences with my cadence and to stretch out my hips and my lower back. And then the last thing was to really utilize the sections of the course in a smart way. So I knew that there would be headwind in one direction, there would be tailwind in another direction, there would be cars on the other side of the road, because we rode in the closest to the median on the left side. So I knew there would be times when we would get up faster speeds, I would be passing athletes. So this allowed me to still make good decisions as I was racing. I think that's one thing that Corell and I excel in with long distance racing. And the longer the better, just because you have to make more decisions with nutrition and pacing and gear and all that. And that's something that we've really learned from a lot of experience. So I just tried to use any type of experience as I could with this course to try to get as much speed as possible. So the bike was fast.
Yeah.
And it was this
So your goal was 23 miles per hour, and what was the end result?
25 miles per hour.
25 miles per hour.
213, wow. Which was just like, push. I think my fastest has been like 226 or something. And really, there wasn't any drafting at the front of the race. It was very spread out. And even on the second loop with more athletes on the course, just because I was going at a faster pace, there was no drafting as well. And actually, it was a little bit hard at times to keep draft legal, which created a little bit more spikes in the power just because you would have to slow down and then try to get up your speed again to what you needed to do. It was very windy going out, and that required a little bit more power. So my power was different. I kind of had an idea of what I could hold, but I wasn't stuck to any power numbers. If anything, I was just focused on my speed and just trying to go as fast as I could without overcooking myself. And I'd say that it was actually a very comfortable ride. I wouldn't be able to do an Ironman effort at that an Ironman distance at that effort, but I don't feel like I overdid it or blew myself up. It went by really fast. I didn't have any low moments. It was a lot of fun, and I felt really good, and I felt very sustainable throughout. I went through almost 2 bottles with about 80 carbs each of my fructose fuel from Infinite, and also took a few GU aminos just here or there, maybe 3 of them. But yeah, one of the bottles, I didn't like the cap that I had. It was a little hard to just squeeze and get the drink in, so I'd make sure that I wouldn't have that cap next time. But I did a pretty good job. I was probably a little short, but it was hard to drink at that intensity and just focused on being as aero as possible on the bike. So I felt really good. My legs felt strong and didn't fade at all, and was able to finish really strong.
Yeah, I felt pretty good too. And like you mentioned about it, the power, how different it was at the beginning. And then as you start dealing with other riders, how you need to be more careful. It was more spiky. I felt exactly the same thing. So at first, basically almost to the turnaround, I was riding very steady, fast but steady, and I was just thinking like, wow, it's pretty good. I'm going 26 miles per hour, 27 sometimes, 25, like around that time. It's just like, oh, that feels good. I'm going well, and I keep like constantly passing people. Then I saw you, and I passed you, I cheered you on, and soon after 2 guys went by, and they were going so fast. And again, that's the decision making that you need to make. If I would just stay at my own, I knew that I was giving up some time. That if I can go with this train, of course legally, but go with it, you can still benefit from it. So I sped up, and I got behind these 2 guys, and actually I was keeping probably like double the distance than what the legal draft legal distance is, just to kind of be sure. And it was a few times that some motorcycle would come close by, and just kind of keep an eye what's going on. But it definitely, I could see how I could go like a mile per hour faster at with these guys, and they were super strong. Later on, I found out that one guy who was actually aqua bike, and he's just like a beast on the bike, and so that was going well. On the second loop, as we start going into the athletes who were on their first loop, that's where it was really difficult, because you have to, like, I could not just be in the same kind of like the tuck position. I had to keep looking up more often to make sure that I don't get into the draft zone, as we are approaching the other riders, and then sometimes somebody's already passing them, and then you just have to slow down, then you have to accelerate, or sometimes you just have to make a big surge to get over several people that are there in the way. So it was looking at a power file, it's kind of like nice and flat for the first part to almost to the first turnaround, and then just like flat spikes. So it was I find it more difficult. And actually, at times, it was almost like, come on, you need to go faster. This is slow, because it was like, there would be, some obstacles in the way. But then again, it got really fast. And at times, I would be like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. And like, but I know that I need to stay here, and it's again, this the decision making. And it was much, much harder than what I can sustain. But I know, like, it'll get better. It'll get better, So, and then finally on the way back, I got disconnected with from these two guys. I started getting a little bit of the feedback in my legs, like the pre cramps, and it's something that kind of I've been dealing with all my life. As I was a teenager racing bikes, I would be prone to cramps, so I know that that's kind of my thing, that it'll come out of nowhere. It's not that I'm overbiking it or pushing harder. It's just, it comes even if I go a lot easier. So it's just the mechanical fatigue, I guess, or some related to the nervous system. Who knows? It's just, it happens. So at the very end of the bike, right before we went back to the stadium, I actually cramped up pretty bad, and for a moment I couldn't even move the legs around. I could not stretch the leg, and it was really painful. So I gave up a few minutes there, but then rock my bike, try to put the shoes on, crept again, and that's when Marnie beat me in the transition, and off to the run.
Yeah. I just want to mention about the bike, with these flat courses, it's very mental, and you have to break it down, and you have to find what works best for you. And for me, so we did this little out section. It was maybe 8 miles, and then it was like 11 miles out, 11 miles back. And so I lapped my computer, and the first loop of 2, I really was just trying to understand the course. And then the second time I wanted to do it better. And when it came to breaking down the 11-mile loops, I realized that it was anywhere between like 23 and 27 minutes. And even though it felt like a long time, I was just kept telling myself, okay, it's no more than 30 minutes. We've done 30-minute intervals before. We've done 20-minute intervals before. And then also there's going to be breaks along the way. Car is going to pass you. It's going to feel easier. Or there's going to be athletes around you. You're going to get the draft. It's going to be easier. And plus there's a tailwind section. So it's going to get easier. So it's kind of like when you are taking these risks, you also are realizing that it's not going to be hard the whole time, that there's going to be easier sections, and then there's going to be hard sections as well. So in the big picture of everything, there was only 2. I mean, yes, it felt solid the whole time, but really the windy section was the hardest part, just to keep that power up. But it was only it was only 22 miles of the whole race. And it was 2 11-mile intervals. And we've done intervals in the wind before. So having that mental breakdown of knowing the course and breaking it down in a way that feels sustainable, it allows you to take risks in a smart way. Had it been 50 miles of headwind, I wouldn't have approached it the same way. I would need to change it up and have to do something different. When we were in Cozumel, it was a very different strategy of training, just because it was more like 30 miles of headwind as opposed to 11 miles of headwind. So it's just very different race to race. So that's just a tip for how to break things up on the courses when you are taking risks, when you are trying to go hard, and see what you can do. It's just reminding yourself that it's not going to be hard the whole time. There's going to be harder sections, but you also have trained for that. What was your nutrition on the bike?
I used the Morton 320. So 320 calories per bottle, and I had 2 bottles, and I finished both of them.
Cool. All right, so now onto the run. So when I got off the bike, I felt pretty good getting off the bike. I felt my legs were a little wobbly starting the run. I didn't feel really. I felt kind of gimp, like elastic. Like I didn't feel compact, and I think that's just from being in that one position. It just felt like my ligaments and everything were just now stretching out, and I needed to like settle in, and it took a while to settle in, especially on such a flat course. But it was so much harder than I thought it was going to be. And also I've had a lot more niggles late season, just because it's been a long season, a lot more issues with my SI joint. And hamstring, and I've been able to train and not have any setbacks, but I can just tell my body's giving me a lot more signals. And then also just really haven't been feeling a lot of speed out of my legs, but been feeling very resilient and strong. And I kept telling Corel over the past month or so that I feel like with all the speed work I've done, it hasn't necessarily transferred over to faster running, like in shorter distances, but I feel like my longer distances I'm getting faster. So my endurance effort, I'm able to run faster with less effort, which is the ultimate goal for me doing these ultra endurance events. So I wasn't really sure what I would be able to do and didn't put pressure on myself. But when I heard that I was first off the bike by 5 minutes, I thought that was pretty cool, and just wanted to see if I could
First overall.
if I could get that national title overall. But I wasn't going to be upset if I didn't get it. I just wanted to do the best that I could. So the run was 3 loops and a 3-mile loop around the track, and then 1.6 miles under the grandstands that had Christmas lights. It was darker in there, it was shaded, and it had a few hills in there, short but punchy hills. And around the track was so hard. It was so windy at times. It was very hot, very humid. So I found that very challenging, and I don't enjoy flat courses. It's not a strength of mine, but I did feel very sustainable. I felt like my form was good. The first loop, I was just really trying to get to know the course. The second loop, I was trying to manage. And then the third loop, I just gave it all I could. Wasn't running any faster, was running a little bit slower, but I was just going to do the best I could. It wasn't until the third loop that I actually felt like my legs were starting to come around. And then I felt like, okay, I could probably do a few more miles. I was doing the best that I could, but it just kind of told me that that the training that I've done is just more suited for the long distance, and that's fine. I'm still happy that I'm able to swim and bike as well as I can, and that I'm running healthy, and I'm still seeing improvements with running, not so much at the shorter distance, although I did have a PR in Blue Ridge, but that I'm seeing improvements in the longer distance. So that's okay. I did get past towards the end. I had 2 flasks with me, each with about little less than 1 full scoop of Never Second. Finished those 2 flasks throughout the run and just took water at the aid stations. But I was just happy the whole run. I was just happy that I could suffer, that I was hot, that I was in the heat. I wasn't cold. I was racing. I could see our other athletes out there. I love the part under the grandstands. That was my favorite part, with the little hills, and it was dark in there, and I just really enjoyed that part. And then crossing the finish line was really cool. The red carpet, and it just felt awesome with all the spectators there. So I ended up second by about 90 seconds. But that's okay.
You won your age group.
Still won my age group. But I felt good the whole race. So I was really happy with overall PR, and just how I was able to put together a very steady performance.
Yeah, so I found the run to be extremely difficult, like really challenging and hard, and I tried to push, my best at every moment, and just couldn't come fast enough. I was really hurting, but never stopped pushing. It was great to have Yannick there, who gave us some splits, so we kind of know what's going on, where we are, and I must say that at these races, like this was the like you said, the non-Ironman brand race. Was Clash, but because it was also a national championship in the middle distance, there was a lot of good athletes that maybe they don't really race Ironmans and just do different type of races, but the competition was really stiff, and there were several really good athletes, and they travel from far, like from Colorado and all these places. So when I started to run, and Yannick told me that I'm third in my age group, right after the bike. So I was like, okay, that's kind of like what I used to hear. And then as I'm running the next loop, I'm still third, and then starting the third loop, I'm still third, and it's just kind of like what else I can do. Usually I can get some more positive reinforcement, like whatever I'm doing, it's working. I'm moving up on the run, and usually the runs are the like the good part of the race for me. And this time it's just like no matter what I was doing, I still, I'm not moving anywhere, but that never stopped me from like really, really pushing. And there were times when I almost felt like I'm just going to throw up how hard I'm trying to go. And I managed at the end to move to the second place in my age group, but the guy who won, he was much better, and he actually, when we started, he was behind me, so he was in the fourth place of the bike, but then he moved through the field, and yeah, he was very good. But what an awesome experience, and just kind of keep pushing. And like I also found it really difficult on the track, where there were segments with the headwind which felt like you're running against the brick wall, and then on another part when there was more of the tailwind, you just feel like you're completely baking because there's no breeze in your face. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the part under the grandstands was awesome because it was they had Christmas decoration and Christmas music, and it was shaded, and so it was kind of like nice. And those two little hills just changed things up. But yeah, all in all, it was just hard run, and I was glad when I finished.
Yeah. So the last thing I just want to mention, maybe some personal thoughts about the race, and Karel, you can share for yourself, just as we continue to age and still be in the sport for all these years. So one of my biggest struggles is my run, and but at the same time, I'm still able to win my age group. I was amazed that I could finish second with a bunch of 25 to 35 year olds.
How old was the girl that won overall that beat you?
25, 29. Yeah. So I'm still able to compete really well, and I'm still enjoying the sport. And I look at other professionals that are great swimmers, great cyclists like Lucy Charles, Paula Finley, other females. There's a lot of them, Sky Munch, great cyclists. So there's a lot of them out there. And I think to myself, do they always tell themselves that they're not a good runner? Do they say, "Oh, I'm not a good runner, and I need to keep getting faster"? Well, of course, we all want to get faster as athletes, but I also know that when I tried to get faster as a runner and the type of training I thought I needed to get faster, I would end up getting injured, and that's not worth it to me. Um, I have to recognize my strengths and my limitations. And I'm just grateful that I haven't had an injury in almost 5 years or a setback. I haven't had to miss any workouts because of a health issue with my body. And to me, that's worth not seeing significant improvements in the run, is to be able to do what I love to do, to be able to go out for a run without niggles or issues. I just have to do the right type of training for my body. And even if that doesn't result in significant improvements on the run, I'm still able to perform really well. And that's because I keep working on my strengths, and which is swimming and biking. And there was a time that I wasn't a really good cyclist, but I've kept working on it and working on it. And I love that I'm still seeing improvements at the age of 41. Over the past few years, I'm still improving in the swim and the bike, and my gap to the run is getting bigger. And that's something that I just want to mention for anybody else who feels like you just always think about the run. I'm not a good runner. I need to be a better runner. For me, if I'm healthy and I have good economy and I feel strong, I can run well off the bike. It may not result in a fast time relative to other athletes, but if I can do that after still swimming and biking really well, then I'm going to deliver the best performance possible. And I've also experienced much better results in the longer distances just because there's more decision making, there's more tactics, and that's also a strength of mine. So finding the right races, hillier, tougher courses is also really important. So I just wanted to mention that as I continue to age, I have to be very careful with how I stress my body with the training. And it's just not worth it to me to take those risks on the run. I'd rather continue to be a strong and resilient athlete. And I felt great on the run. I just couldn't run any faster.
Yeah, I pretty much have the similar feelings as you, or some similar takeaways, and I'm just glad that I can still be competitive, and we all need to kind of adjust our expectations and the goals. Like as we age, maybe there will not be any more PRs. So, and of course, it's everything. It's course dependent and the race dependent. So, like this race was very, very fast, but I'm still, glad when you see, some of these fast times. Like this year, I was able to do my fastest Ironman and my fastest half Ironman distance race. But it's not about that. It's just, how you can place within your peers, within your age group, and of course, the sport is getting faster. So there are a lot more younger athletes coming in, and even the ones that've been in the sport for a while. Like everybody's kind of setting the bar higher and higher, and it's cool when you can still compete. So, and also in now I'm in the at that age where there is a lot of athletes who maybe at one time they race professionally, and now they are racing age group, and it's totally fine. And I don't really like when athletes almost takes it as a excuse, like, oh, this guy, he used to race pro and now he's in my age group beating me up. Like, I'm 47. I'm racing 45 to 49. What do you expect these guys to do? Like,
Not race?
Not race, or still race pro and be, not competitive? Like, of course they belong into age group because they are at that age. So, like the guy who won, he was a former professional, and but what else he would be doing, right? So it's totally fine, and it's actually cool that you can, oh wow, you can can say like, I race against so and so who used to be a pro, and now we are battling together. So yeah, it's just just be glad for whatever benchmarks you can set for yourself, and find a competition, or competitive way in the races, so wherever you can.
Yeah, and seeking out different experiences. And for us, we've really renewed our love of road triathlon because of the off-road races, because the off-road races are new experiences. So we get that beginner feeling that we haven't had for a decade in the on-road racing. We get that experience of, wow, I did something for the first time, or I don't have anything to compare to, so I know I'm going to have the best result possible. Whereas the longer you're in long distance half and full distance Ironman, it's so easy to compare yourself to the past version of yourself, or to compare yourself to other people that you race to. So having these different experiences, like going on a course like this, that's totally different for us. Like, okay, no expectations. Let's see what happens. And now we finish this race and we're like, oh, I want to race more half Ironmans. It's so much fun to just do that top end effort and race really hard. So, finding out different ways to renew your love, or to extend your love for triathlon, is also really important. And that's going to allow you to keep getting more and discovering more out of yourself. So we highly recommend this race. We thought it was a fantastic end of the season race. There's a lot of different distances that you can do, but we do recommend the Clash Daytona. We thought it was very well run, very organized, very safe. And we would totally do it again.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Cheers.